Go for it, girl.
Please don't say that again. I recently read this book. It's called Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. I did a review of it for the Queer Blackathon a couple videos ago, so if you want to find out what this book is all about, then check that video out. But today I'm going to be discussing something that this book made me think about. Representation in literature. I can't really say much, if anything, from a personal perspective about representation in literature, because I have the luxury of being able to pick up practically any book and be able to insert myself into the story or into being one of the characters some way. And I never feel particularly excluded from a story. The only time where I really felt like a book was really written for me on a personal level was when I read the book Quiet by Susan Cain, which was actually a non-fiction book about introverts and their traits and why those personality traits are not bad things and what introverts are good at, what they're bad at, and how as an introvert you can tackle those things you're bad at and improve upon them. So that was the only time where I really felt a book was written for me personally, but as for almost every other book, I can see myself in it in some way. For anyone who's new to the concept of representation in literature, it basically just means including people who are not white, rich, cis, heterosexual, all these things. But it also doesn't just mean black people. It means people of all colours, all races, all backgrounds, all religions, all sexualities, all gender orientations, abilities, disabilities. It means everybody. And it doesn't just mean including a black sidekick who's really sassy who then gets killed for emotional effect halfway through. That doesn't count. And representation is important because books are essentially mirrors. They show us as who we are and what's important about society at large. Books are the way we share experiences, knowledge, warnings, and books also are not just mirrors, they are us. They represent everything that we could be. And when books represent, in the majority of cases, white, rich people, that becomes a problem because people can't see themselves and they can't see what they could be. And this is especially important in this case of children who really need to have some way that they can see themselves and their identity in a positive light. Because just imagine growing up and you grow up in a minority situation where you're questioning an element about your identity, or you're growing up as a minority race in a majority white background, and you turn to books as an escape, and all you read about are all these blooming white people, and nobody's like you, or nobody has your disabilities or your mental issues, or just nothing represents you, and then you just feel like you're not worth anything. And that will be so damaging to people's self-esteem and sense of worth. But books can also show you the future. They show you who you could be. They can show a character like you who has similar problems to you or who has a similar background to you, going through incredible challenges and still being able to overcome them despite any problems that they've had. And from a selfish point of view, reading books with diverse representation is just simply more interesting. To be able to read about new opinions or new situations or different people who have different problems and different backgrounds just is so refreshing and makes reading interesting and fun. And to be honest, representation is easy. As a reader, you need to make an effort to read books by and about diverse people, such as Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. Because if you don't make a conscious effort to reach for these books, then marketing strategies and the publishing system at large automatically fill your bookshelves with books by and about white people, cis people, straight people, able-bodied people. Just look at your bookshelf and see if I'm not right. And for all the writers out there, it's slightly harder, but all you need to do is look at your cast of characters and make sure that they're varied, make sure they're diverse, make sure they actually represent what the world is like in your story. Don't try and take somebody's pain or somebody's problems and then represent them as your own in the book. That's not cool. Make sure you actually represent the world properly, not just some whitewashed version that you think it is. And the way you do that is by speaking to the people in the minority group or in the racial group that you're discussing, and do them justice and turn them into real characters, real people who have real problems. They're not just there to give you diversity points in your novel. Your reading and your writing needs to reflect the world around you, not some whitewashed nightmare. So in conclusion, read more diverse books like this one. It's really good. I recommend it.